Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
This is Lexsey with Narrate Kids. I am here with Steve Youde today, and we're just talking with some of our team members about their faith journeys, how they ended up at Narrate, what serving means to them. This is just kind of a informal but formal way for people to get to know each other and put a story to the face, and that kind of stuff. So anyways.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Would you mind taking just like a couple minutes to introduce yourself, maybe talk about like your family, your dad, you're recently a grandpa for the first time. So would you kind of introduce yourself and your family and that stuff?
Yeah. So I've been married to my wife Trina for 11 years, and that's part of my journey that I'll probably get into a little bit today. Mm-hmm. But she's been a wonderful addition to my family and my life, and just has blessed me and shown me the grace and the love of God in ways that I never would have seen otherwise. Mm-hmm. So she's a blessing. I have 5 kids. One of them is kind of semi-adopted, brought into the family later on, bonus kid that was my son's best friend in high school, and he lived with us for a little while, and now he's just part of the family. So I say 5 kids. I include him. So my oldest is 29, my youngest is 22, 3 boys, 2 girls, and they all live nearby. So my youngest daughter is in Bozeman, and she's the furthest one away. So that's a huge blessing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said oldest is 29, youngest is 22.
Yep.
So 5 within a 7-year span. Age.
And we added that 5th one on, but we had 4, and actually I had 4 by the time I was 25. So
wow.
Yeah, it was all pretty quick. It was like I heard somebody say, and I would agree, like I found something I was good at, and I just kept doing it.
Yeah, there you go. That's like, I can't even imagine. I'm getting ready for number 2 in 6 years, and that's like, that seems like a big step.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, because now I see my kids at that age, and I'm like, holy cow! Like, I see how young they are and how they're just kind of figuring out life, and I was like, geez, I had 2 kids by the time I was 22. I was in
the thick of being a dad.
Yeah. And my kids look at me sometimes and they're like, Dad, can you imagine you had 2 kids by the time you were my age? Like, that's crazy. So, yeah. And it was kind of crazy, but I love my kids. Sunday has been like family day, and that's been a routine we've had for years, and it has remained that way. So every Sunday, whichever kids are around and available, they come out to the house, and we just eat meals and play games and have fun and hang out, and they really love being with each other, and that's just such a huge part of the rhythm of my week is family day on Sundays. So even as a realtor, I'm a realtor, and from the beginning of my real estate career, I have just no Sundays. I don't work Sundays, and I had coaches telling me, well, you kind of have to do open houses and show houses on Sunday, and I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot and say no.
Yeah, and you stay true to the Sunday Sabbath, Sundays for family. Not necessarily
I don't know how restful
rest.
It is.
Yeah, not necessarily rest.
But it's fun.
But it is a form of rest when you get to just sit back and laugh with your family. And
they're great. They're just super fun kids. And my second son got married 2 years ago, and they just had their first baby. So I am a grandpa, 2 months old today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty darn exciting.
He's so cute.
Yeah,
I've
super
seen pictures.
Cute. And I'm 48 years old, and I'm a grandpa, and I still feel like I'm at an age where I can enjoy my kids and enjoy my grandkid now. And
you're still running around. You're not out being a grandpa with a walker.
Yeah.
Not yet.
The benefits of having kids when you're 19. So
yeah, I love it. That's awesome. I've always admired I guess I really only know I know your girls.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've really admired watching your relationship with them, like through your experience on worship team and just through you attending church with them.
Yeah.
It's really fun to see like adult kids enjoying being with their parents, post being a child. Like when they want to stick around and hang out with you, like that's how you know you've made it as a parent.
Yeah. And that warms my heart. Father's Day last Sunday, I just looked out in the driveway, and my driveway is packed with cars. Mm-hmm. And I think like that to me is success.
Yeah.
Love it.
Absolutely. So you had nodded a little bit to Trina coming into the story here in a little bit. I have a feeling that that's probably coming up here fairly soon, but we're going to backtrack a little bit because I know you have a long history with faith, just because I know a little bit of your background and your family and stuff. So could you tell us a little bit about your faith story and how your relationship with Jesus started?
Yeah. So I am, Anthony spoke last Sunday in church, mm-hmm. and he was third generation Baptist minister. I am as well. Mm-hmm. My grandpa was a fundamentalist Baptist pastor back in the 30s to the 50s. He died pretty young, and I never met him. Oh, wow. But my dad has been a pastor my entire life, and so we moved to Montana when I was 3, and my dad took a pastorate in Lewistown. And so I grew up in church. Like, we lived right behind the church, and we're always there, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, of course. And so it was always, the church culture was always a part of my life. And I remember, praying the prayer, giving my life to Christ as a young kid. And I think, I really believe, looking back on that Christ honored that, and that the Holy Spirit played a role in that. As a kid, I absorbed my Christian culture as being very performance oriented, and that's how I interpreted it. That if I did well and did the right things and said the right things and wore the right clothes, that I was okay and acceptable. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't, if I was rebellious, I had a real problem with anger when I was a kid, that I was not okay. And that's kind of how I treated my relationship with God. And so it was this very roller coaster type of an experience. Mm-hmm. And that was amplified by some things that happened to me as a kid in Lewistown that made me feel very dirty. Mm-hmm. If I can be candid on the podcast, like just some sexual abuse type issues. Mm-hmm. And so I lived in this kind of a dual world existence of, on the one hand, feeling like I needed to perform in this culture to be accepted, and then on the other hand, knowing that I was dirty and unacceptable. And so it just created this internal conflict for me that I couldn't understand or put a finger on as a kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, just a lot of shame. And so that went into my teenage years, a lot of rebellion. When I knew that I couldn't live up to my own expectations as a Christian, like I just threw in the towel. Like I don't want to be a hypocrite, so forget this. Mm-hmm. And walked away from it several times, giving myself to whatever behaviors I could that kind of matched what I was feeling inside. And so that's how it went until I found out when I was 19 that my ex-girlfriend, not even my girlfriend at the time, was pregnant, and that I was going to be a dad. And so I really, God got a hold of my heart at that point. I still had this very performance-oriented Christianity, mm-hmm. and I performed well, and got myself back into the church scene and the culture, and so did she, and started to learn and to grow, and I performed well through Bible college and seminary and ministry. I did children's ministry in college, and then did some pastoral ministry afterward, and then ended up pastoring a church for about 5 years, all the time, like pats on the back and a lot of accolades for just being a good Christian servant. Mm-hmm. And yet inside there was still that turmoil of, if this falls apart, people are going to know what I'm really like. And So that's kind of a brief description of what my faith was like then, and I really do believe that I had a heart to follow Christ and to know Him, but what I didn't have was a real acceptance of His love for me, and so that it just made it really hard. And then my life fell apart, and went through a divorce, lost my ministry, lost time with my kids, just family turmoil. Going back to the restaurant business, just feeling like I had lost everything I'd worked so hard to gain. And that's kind of a nutshell of my faith experience. So one of probably the biggest time of growth in my faith was my divorce, going through my divorce, and just realizing, like, I really held on to this passage in Philippians 3 where Paul talks about how he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He kept the law better than anyone else, and then he lost it all for the sake of Christ. And that's what it felt like for me. It was to give, not to give it all up, because it was all taken from me.
Right.
And yet in that, my heart was exposed, and I was really forced to kind of come to the feet of Jesus and say, can you love me right here? And in response to that, the word from God was like, yes, I love you, and I love you right here in all of your ugliness and dirtiness, and I always have. So that the divorce for me was huge in my faith journey.
That was kind of my next question for you, was like pivotal moments or seasons that shaped your faith the most. So I appreciate you sharing that, because and just in general, your whole faith story up until your divorce, I think really speaks to, I'm hoping that it'll speak to a lot of people. Like, I identify with that kind of similar feeling growing up in the way that I was raised, and I was raised in the church, but I still had that sense of brokenness or not fullness in Christ, or didn't fully understand my identity in Christ until I was in my late teens, early 20s even. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's hard to be vulnerable about those things, and it's really helpful to know that, like, those tough moments are for good purpose, even though in the moment it might not feel that way. Yeah,
and it certainly is not a smooth path of like, oh, this happened and everything was fixed. It's like, easy. Oh, I just got beat down over and over and over again, and made some real mistakes. I mean, just developed some really bad habits during my divorce, and had to grow out of those to trust God that He did actually love me. So it just took a lot of failure.
Thank you for sharing that. So we're kind of at this pivotal moment in your life where you go through this divorce and you have your kiddos, and you're trying to navigate life as a single father and what that looks like. Now, this is where things get muddy for me even, and I feel like we've talked about this before, and I don't know why I can't remember if we have or not, but did you and Trina meet before starting at Narrate or after starting at Narrate?
Well,
can you explain that? I know there's a story with it.
Let me fill in the gaps a little bit. So when I went through my divorce, and I'm just an open book now. You can decide whether you want to share this podcast or not with anybody else. But when I went through my divorce, I developed an addiction to pornography, and that was hard. We were living in Portland, Oregon, and I just felt like my life was just falling apart. I was grasping anything that could give me hope, and obviously that was a lie, but. So working through that with my community in Portland, and then we moved back to Montana, and I just spending as much time with my kids as I could, trying to find a church to settle in here too, and that was hard to find the right church. And I did find a small church that we settled into for a couple of years, but I really wasn't finding anybody there that really understood my journey, that could really walk with me through that. And so God provided that outside of the church, actually, just with an individual that I met kind of by coincidence, not coincidence. It was God's timing and God's hand on that. But a guy who mentored me for about a year and a half. Every week I met with him, and he just brought me out of the hole, or helped God bring me out of this pit. And so after that year and a half, and then just being in a place where I felt entirely healthier, and I was enjoying my relationship with my kids. I had moved from in Helena out to Clancy, and that just felt therapeutic. Working a restaurant job, management at Applebee's, and just living life, but feeling joyful in my relationships and content. And my mentor said, "I think you're ready to date." And so I was like, okay, well. I had been getting these emails for ChristianMingle.com, a free subscription. Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know, I'll just check it out. So I signed up, and the free trial means you can see everybody's bio on there, but you can't talk to anybody. That's their hook. Oh. And so I saw Trina's bio on there, didn't do anything with it. I was like, online dating is not for me. So I just shut the thing down. And a couple months later, I thought, well, I'll give it another look. And so I got the free trial again. Got on there, saw her bio, and I read it, and in her bio she said, "So I'm too cheap to pay for ChristianMingle.com, but I think I've given you enough information here that you can track me down on my work email." So I went to their website, found her email, shot her an email, said, "Hey, I'm divorced with 4 kids, you want to talk?" And
punchline.
Yeah, it was a little more than that, but she did respond, and we communicated over email and by text for a while. She was living in Plains at the time, so she was 3 hours away.
Of all places, Plains, Montana.
Plains, Montana, yeah. Working at a Christian adventure camp over there.
Oh, wow.
And so we communicated like that. Within a couple of weeks, I could tell that we were connecting. And I said, you just need to know everything about me. And so for 4 hours one night, I told her my whole story, just talked to her about my divorce, the pornography addiction, everything, just laid it all out on the table. And I said, I don't want to talk to you again for a couple of weeks. Like, just pray about it, talk to your friends about it, talk to your family, your mentor, tell them anything that you want to about my story. And if you still want to talk in a couple of weeks, I'll email you. You can let me know if you want to continue. And so I did. I emailed her, and she's crazy enough. Like, she was like, yeah, I want to keep talking and interacting. And for me, like, that was God in the flesh, of just saying, here is all of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Will you accept me in this? And she did. And so it was a completely different experience than I had ever had in the past. And the grace that I saw from Trina in that was enormous. And she'd be the first to tell you, like, she needs grace too. She's got things about her that she's open about, and we just love each other in that. But it's completely different and powerful to be totally open and still accepted.
Go from this ultimate feeling of rejection in your past to all of a sudden feeling like, wow, I am accepted as I am.
Exactly.
Can be seen for who I am and enjoyed, loved as who I am. Yeah.
So when we got married, Trina and I were going to that small church, and so I used to do these conversations with my kids after church on Sunday, where we would read something spiritual together, and it inevitably would turn into some heated conversation because none of my kids are quiet, and they'll just say what they're thinking. And so that particular Sunday, we were reading a book by Mike Yaconelli, Dangerous Wonder, and Ellie, my second youngest, my older of my 2 daughters, and you know her from the band at Narrate, she said, she was 15 at the time, she said, "Dad, if you want us to think about our faith, why do you keep dragging us to that church? We hate it." And I was like, fair enough. They hadn't really connected there. And so every other Sunday when I had my kids on Sunday morning, we would go visit a different church, and we would go intentionally to places that were kind of outside of our tradition. And And the only requirement was we had to talk about it, talk about what we heard and what we saw, and look at their doctrinal statement and their website and kind of just examine what they were about. Mm-hmm. And it was a great experience, like of just bouncing around town, visiting different churches, having those conversations. And my boys were graduated that year and pretty much out of the house. So it was really my two girls that came to Narrate with us, and they loved the way that Adam spoke. They loved the music, and we just kept coming back. And that was 10 years ago. So that's how we got to Narrate.
Good job, Ellie.
Yeah.
For speaking up. I love that.
Yeah, she's good at that.
That doesn't shock me.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, that any of your kids are, outspoken doesn't shock me at all. But the fact that it was Ellie that was like taking action does not surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
She's very much so a take action person.
I'm grateful she did. Yeah. Because both my girls got plugged in at Narrate, and so did we. We just found a great community.
Yeah, I love that. Oh. You guys have been, you especially, you've been serving on kids teams since before I started.
Yeah.
At Narrate 7 years ago. So you've been a huge part of just my experience of working at Narrate Kids and bouncing ideas off of you. And in a way, you've been a mentor to me, which has been huge. You have way more experience than I do in the children's ministry realm in many ways.
Thank you.
And teaching and just your Bible knowledge and all of that.
Yeah. I've loved having you there, and it's been fun watching you grow. Like, remember when you first came, I was she's so young. And
I was a little baby. Baby when I started at Narrate.
You have matured and grown, and it's been pretty cool to watch.
Thanks. Yeah, we're very glad that we found Narrate too.
Good.
So, jumping kind of into the serving, you and Trina both serve in different capacities and in many different ways. But we're going to focus on Narrate Kids because that's where my brain power is most of the time. So what has been the most meaningful or memorable for you in your time serving with Narrate Kids? How many years have you been serving with Narrate Kids?
Probably 9 or so. I don't know exactly when I started, but it wasn't too long after we got to Narrate. So I've always enjoyed working with kids. Yeah. The most meaningful and memorable thing is the kids. Like the kids that I've gotten to know that are now in junior high or high school or even graduating from high school that were in Narrate Kids when I started. That's the most memorable part. And it seems like I kind of have this draw to connect with kids that are struggling, that come on a Sunday morning and maybe they're disruptive and whatnot. And I've always believed since my early children's ministry days that the best way to show the love of Christ to kids is when they're disruptive or rebellious or doing the wrong thing. Because isn't that the case for adults too? That's the time we learn the love of God, is when we're doing the wrong thing, making mistakes, and maybe our faith isn't where it needs to be. And God comes in and he's so gentle and compassionate. And I think that's where we show that to kids, is like rather than coming down on them or yelling them or showing them an adult that's mean or disappointed, that we just come alongside and say, hey, what's going on?
Lead by example for sure. You're definitely gifted in that area of like those kiddos that maybe struggle a little bit more than others, or maybe don't feel like they fit in with the other kids. You're like the first person to like get down on the floor and like grab a kid that may feel like they're an outlier or outcast and like start a game of Uno. And you are not afraid to like just walk up to a kid and be like, let's go do this game, or include them. And not in a like pushy, overly like, I don't know, weird way.
Yeah.
It's very natural for you to do that. Sometimes I feel awkward, and it's like my job. So,
well, it doesn't come across, and I've always said, like, hanging out with kids feels much more natural to me than hanging out with adults.
Oh, for sure, same.
Maybe that's a prerequisite for Narrate Kids ministry. Yeah.
Kids ministry in general. That should be on the application.
Yeah.
Do you feel more comfortable around kids than adults? Awesome. I would agree. There is something special about kids who have gone through Narrate Kids and then they graduate, and you're like up in the main gathering, and they're like helping to serve communion or
reading on the stage.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's what's really cool is when we've had a kid graduate through Narrate Kids, like the middle schoolers who are up reading, like it's always the kids that are like, after every time a kid reads, the whole room's just like clapping for them. The adults don't get clapped for.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's really fun. I bet it's Narrate Kids leaders that start it too, for the most part. I love it. So how has serving at Narrate Kids shaped your faith or your sense of purpose? Like post finding Narrate, starting serving, how has that shaped your experience?
Yeah, so it's just part of the rhythm of walking with Christ, and I think it's not often lumped in as one of the spiritual disciplines, but serving really is a spiritual discipline, and so for me, like week after week of coming and ministering with the kids and to them and being ministered to by them, like that is a part of the rhythm of my Christianity. And so it's not uncommon where I come in to Narrate Kids on a Sunday morning and I feel maybe lethargic in my faith or a bit down and lacking energy, and I leave Narrate Kids feeling upbeat and encouraged and challenged, because the kids are just, man, they're unbottled love and acceptance and encourement.
Totally.
They constantly minister to me. So that sounds selfish maybe, but like I get a lot out of just working with the kids.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like that's been a huge part of my own growth, like, and maturity in my faith. Like, kids teach you so much, and they're so like unapologetically honest, and sometimes brutally honest. But it's good. They call you out on things that you need to be called out on. They teach you. I mean, how many times do you walk in and there's like, they're just so eager to share something that they learned with you. And
the other thing is like, I love to teach the Bible, and it's really fun. Like, I teach adults the Bible, and we get into some pretty deep stuff sometimes, and it's fun to learn that kind of theology and just the deeper parts of the Bible, but then to take it into Narrate Kids and to try to explain that stuff to kids, and they get it. Like, they're so much smarter than you think.
Totally.
And they understand concepts that are really, really difficult to understand. Like Easter is an example, and that sticks out in my memory, that one of the topics that we pulled out of the egg was the veil in the temple being torn. And I was like, kids, like, do you know what that is about? Like, what that means and what God was accomplishing through the death of Christ? And we went into that, like the meaning of the curtain and the sacrifice and going into the Holy of Holies, and like, and they were asking questions because it's hard to understand. But in the end, like, they got it. Like, if God's on the other side of the curtain and I'm here, like, it needs to be separated.
Torn.
It needs to be torn.
Yeah. I was something from this month. I just get so excited about, like, I don't know, big words or difficult words and their meanings. And this month we're talking about epistles. And so that very first Sunday, I was so excited to be like, does anybody know what an epistle is? And just have them all be silent. And no. These kids it's a long letter. And I was like, what? How do you guys know this?
It's because we have great parents.
They're so good. Our kids are so smart.
Yep, very well educated.
I'm like ready to like mic drop And no, an epistle is a long letter. I was like, of course you know what an epistle is. Yeah. Showed me.
You don't always get an intelligent answer from the kids. Sometimes it's a real snarky answer.
That's fair.
Yeah, but they are very smart.
And sarcastic.
Yep.
We've got a sarcastic bunch, but they're fun.
Yeah.
All right, so just to wrap up our conversation, I was trying to think of a question that could speak to kind of everybody, but since we're more kid focused, I don't think our kids will be listening to this podcast, but their families will, or parents will be. So if you could share one encouragement with the kids or families that we serve at Narrate through our Narrate Kids team, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say the love of God is far deeper than you could ever imagine. And to show that to our kids is our primary role as parents. And I haven't always believed that. I used to think that it was my role as a parent for my kids to be good or for my kids to be happy. But really what my kids need, even at 29 years old and 27 years old and 25 and 22, they need to know that I love them. And in that they see that God loves them. And man, that's our biggest job.
Yeah. That's awesome. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and record this today.
Yeah.
It's kind of intimidating to be asked to record a podcast, but and then spill your guts about your whole life story. So I appreciate your vulnerability and just your willingness to serve people by sharing your story.
Yeah.
I think it's something that people will relate to for sure.
Well, and that's the thing we have that really blesses each other the most is our stories. And I love to connect with people in that way. So, I mean, if anybody ever wants to connect like that, I love doing it. So,
oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. If you are someone who would love to connect with Steve, by all means, you can reach out to the staff and we can...
Google my name.
Or
my
Google
phone number's
Steve.
out
You
there
can
all
find
over the
him.
place.
Yeah, I was going to say we can connect you with Steve or you can Google him. All right. Well, thank you, Steve, for being here.
Thank you, Lexsey. I appreciate it.
If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.